Like many car manufacturers, MG have been streamlining, modernising and electrifying their range. And you may think a full facelift of a car range, surely that's a good thing, right? Well, not exactly, because in MG's case, it's a great thing. And now with the all-new MG ZS Hybrid Plus, it really wraps up the MG lineup with a rather sleek and somewhat sporty looking self-charging hybrid. But you're probably looking at it thinking, well, what is the actual purpose of this? It looks identical to the new MG HS, which comes as a petrol plug-in hybrid and soon to be a self-charging hybrid. So what is the point? Well, as a matter of fact, the purpose of the all-new ZS Hybrid is it's smaller, more compact and more affordable than its HS counterpart, with one of these coming in at £6.5 cheaper than the HS. And if you want to compare the prices of the entire MG range, then go on the Paul Rigby MG website. Yes, the all-new MG ZS Hybrid may look fairly familiar, may look the twin of the HS. In fact, this front design is almost a carbon copy of its HS counterpart. But that's always been a running theme with the ZS and the HS. They've always been fairly in tune with one another, almost the Liam and Noel Gallagher of the car world. Both may be pretty similar, but they offer aspects in different areas and ultimately work well apart, but perfectly in the same group. And now with this new look ZS with a self-charging hybrid powertrain, we unfortunately say Auf Wiedersehen to the ZS EV, because the S5 EV has taken its place. But for the time being, let's forget about comparing this to the HS, because I somewhat think the ZS gets overlooked. With a complete revamp of the MG range, with new additions like the S5 and the Cyberster, the likes of the ZS have been slowly ticking away in the background, but I still think this SUV has a lot to give, and especially with design. It's sleek, it's modern, obviously with that revamped front end, it has a pretty aggressive face, don't you think? If you look at it front on, it almost looks like it's snarling at you, and that I like. You get LED daytime running lights and LED headlights, which come as standard. And they're not the only things which come as standard, because you get a great sense of value for money with the ZS, one of the areas that this car definitely excels in. The two spec levels being called the SE and the Trophy, the same names as seen across the MG range. And the SE comes in at £22,500, whereas the Trophy, the top spec, just under the £25,000 mark. And it's not really much to split between them two price tags. And that's because you do get a lot of features as standard. Because you get 17-inch alloy wheels, keyless entry as standard, and on the interior you get rear parking camera and sensors displayed on a 12.3-inch infotainment system with phone connectivity to allow Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You also get digital dash, regenerative braking, multiple driver modes, hill start assist, lane keep assist and adaptive cruise control. And with both specs housing the same powertrain, a 1.5 litre petrol engine as part of that hybrid system, there's really not much difference. Now the top spec will get premium features like rear privacy glass, heated seats and the steering wheel, a leather interior, larger alloy wheels and a 360 parking camera. And with that shared powertrain, it also means that no matter if you get the SE, if you get the Trophy, you're still going to be getting a rather pleasant driving experience. The specs won't compromise your experience with the ZS, because that powertrain allows for 0 to 60 in around about 8.7 seconds, which for a hybrid SUV, you look across the car market, isn't quick, not really in the slightest, but it's not sluggish. It does have a bit of pulling power with that hybrid system. It means that you can set off in EV mode, and that's displayed on your digital dash. So although there's not really any sense of power to a degree, there is that bit of pull off the line, more than enough, so you're not going to be kind of anxious about pulling onto dual carriageways, pulling out of motorways. You're still going to have a rather comfortable driving experience. In terms of practicality, well, I do like obviously how large that infotainment system is, 12.3 inches. You're going to be easy to be able to see it while out on the road. I like how it's slightly tilted back, and it almost makes it easier to view, especially on a sunny day. You're not really going to have any glare because it has that tilt to it. So that's all good. Digital dash, rather large, has everything you need to. And what I like about the ZS, maybe in preference to the likes of the S5 and the new MG HS, is the digital dash is slightly different. In the HS, S5 EV and MG4, it's pretty much the same style, same design. This has, you know, a little bit of a background to it, has some nice icons at the side. I do like how large the automatic gear selector is. It kind of feels something out of Top Gun, and changing from reversing to parking to drive. I like that. My only slight complaint about this is, yes, obviously, if it was a bit more powerful, had a bit more speed to it, it would have been nicer. But the fact you get like multiple driving modes is a bonus, especially from your base spec, as well as regenerative braking. Now, the only thing about the regenerative braking is it is rather sharp. You know, when you ease the foot of the accelerator, especially if you've got it on that top level, then you kind of do jolt forwards ever so slightly than what I would like. But if you do find out when driving the ZS, you would ultimately just either turn it off or put it on the lowest setting. Not that big of an issue. With that top spec, you get the added extra of 360 parking cameras, which when you indicate, as shown there, you see your blind side, which means with that and the blind spot detection, you shouldn't really be crashing when you're turning corners. It's a rather safe car. Another ever so slight query about this is, yes, it has them park cameras from standard and the 360 with the trophy spec, but when I find reversing this, it kind of flies back more than it goes forward. I'll demonstrate. So we'll pull into a parking space. So we'll pull up, we'll line it up using them 360 parking cameras. My foot's off the brake and it's kind of, well, flying back, and then you've got to put your foot on the brake and it almost comes to a complete halt. And then I'm coming back, oh, right, better edging a bit closer. I mean, this parking's awful, don't judge me. But when I park back, and then it kind of, that last bit really accelerates, and you kind of have to pay a bit more attention to what you're used to. Normally when you're reversing, it goes slower than when you go forward. This kind of feels the complete opposite, the reverse, pardon the pun. I say, take foot's completely off the brake, and it just seems to fly back, which is okay when you're first getting in, speeds up the process. When I get to this bit, I've got to quickly then slam on, and it kind of looks like you can't do your gears properly. So only slight worry. That was a bit more powerful. Overall, a very nice driving experience. So yes, the performance and driving experience of the ZS Hybrid may not be wild, may not be furious, but it's certainly comfortable, and let's help with this interior. For value for money, I think the ZS offers a lot. 22,500. You got to bear in mind that this is the trophy. You do get them leather seats and also electronically adjustable seats, rather fancy. Base spec, you still get same style seating, but it's fabric, and also you get manual adjusting. By the end of the day, that bit, I mean, I can't do it because it's electronically adjustable, but that isn't exactly hard. But for the price difference, only about 2,400. I think I'd opt for the trophy because the leather seats electronically adjustable and then 360 parking cameras, I just think really enhance the driving experience of this car. Saying that, base spec you're still getting his infotainment system, all rather responsive, and it has these few shortcut buttons. It'd be nice if those actually navigation one, because the actual menu's on this side and it could potentially be blocked, but after a while of driving, then it will kind of just become second nature. The only other thing I would have liked more shortcut buttons is your climate controls. Now, you can actually turn on and off here, and they're quite easily displayed, but to change the temperature and the fan speed, you're kind of doing it all through the infotainment system. The volume controls I don't really think are needed here, for the fact you can change it on your steering wheel, but overall it's still rather responsive and easy to change out on the road. Fan speed slider here. Again, with this being the trophy, you do get the addition of heated seats for the driver and passenger, and also heated steering wheel. The only thing is, it is only one setting. Normally, you kind of compress it. You can do level 1, level 2, level 3. This is just one setting, but I don't think you can really argue for the price tag of this car. You have lots of space in your center console to easily store things. Obviously, it's not wireless. You do have to plug it into the access Apple CarPlay, but nice little space to put your phone and keep your cables all tidy so they're not getting in your way when you're out on the road. A wireless phone charging pad, like I said, I think would fit perfectly here. I kind of don't know why they haven't utilised that. Ah well, 2 cup holders, and you do get a lot of storage in your center console. Kind of got a little shelf bit here on your dash. I will say the actual build quality, nothing really sort of shakes at all. There's no real scratchy plastics, even around the air vents. There's nice chrome, and it's kind of almost like this matte effect on the plastic on your air vent. So I think build quality is actually good. Like this chrome strips goes around, and as I mentioned, this automatic gear selector I think is great. Very much out of Top Gun. I feel like I'm in a fighter jet. Just a shame that performance doesn't match a fighter jet. But overall, I don't think I've got really anything to complain about the actual interior. For actual value for money, I think it's great. And yes, it's not high tech. Yes, you won't really say this is luxury. But for what you want, for how comfortable it is and for how nice it looks, I mean, it's pretty good. In terms of the rear seats, I still think the ZS fares rather well, not only for itself in the MG range, but also in the wider car market. For this price point, if you're looking at like a mid-size SUV, the amount of space you get in the back is pretty generous. And despite it being ever so slightly narrower than the previous ZS, there's still a lot of space. In terms of the middle seat and how comfortable it actually is, well, there is a slight lip on the floor, so your legroom is compromised ever so slightly. The fact that your centre console comes back ever so slightly into the rear, but it's still rather comfy. It's not one of these awkward lips as seen on a lot of mid-size SUVs, where it's almost up here and you're sat pretty much in a crouching position. Still decent amount of legroom, and depending how friendly you are to the person next to you, you can, stretch across and play footsie. Just depending. However, you still get 2 air vents, only 1 USB port in the rear, so if you have 2 or even 3 passengers in the back, they are going to be fighting over that. You don't get a fold down armrest, that would have been nice, but leather seats, same style as the front, decent amount of storage, you have one on your armrest here and good pocket down the bottom. And at the back, well, the ZS doesn't offer loads of design features. It looks rather familiar than its previous iteration, but I do think it's still a rather good looking rear end, if I do say so myself. You have a slight little spoiler, you have different bevels, and on this rear bumper you have 2 exhausts, and I say that because they're fake, the exhausts are actually underneath, but no one needs to know that, it still looks rather good. I like how rear lights go into the centre, they look rather bold, and they actually come out here, they're not flush to the car, which I think gives it that sporty edge as matched to the front. Now the ZS doesn't offer a power tailgate, so you will need to get them arms into action, but it's not the heaviest of the boot, so I think everyone will be fine. Now under here you have 443 litres boot capacity, actually 5 litres less from the previous ZS. Not that big of an issue, 5 litres, what's that, couple of bottles of Pepsi Max? You're sorted. You do have underfloor storage as well, so it's still a rather sizable boot. Now to compare it to its HS counterpart, because these cars are almost identical, the HS has 507 litres, so around about 60 litres, doing some quick maths there, 64 litres, there you go. Difference between the ZS and the HS, so you're still getting a rather sizable car, despite it being ever so slightly smaller. If you want to find out more, then you can contact Paul Rigby MG.